Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're taking a close look at just one source. It's a psychological horror story called The Mirror Room Reflections You Can't Escape. It was originally an episode from Whispers After Dark.
Yeah, and this one, it's not about, gore or ghosts jumping out.
Yeah.
The real power here, I think, comes from how it takes something totally ordinary, a mirror, and just twists it, makes it deeply unsettling.
Exactly.
So we're going to unpack how it builds that suspense using psychological angles, this idea of a cursed object, and, well, what happens when your own reflection basically turns on you.
Right. So our mission today is to really get into the nuts and bolts of this story. How does it make something so familiar feel so terrifying? It really leans into that creepy question. What if that image looking back at you isn't just you? What if it's something else?
Okay, so let's talk about the main character, Karan. The source describes him as quiet, 34, a graphic designer, lives alone, always tired.
That profile itself, it kind of sets a stage, doesn't it? Someone perhaps already feeling a bit isolated, maybe run down, vulnerable.
Precisely. It lays the groundwork. And then something extraordinary, or maybe, unnatural, enters his life. The source says he stumbles upon this curio shop.
Oh yeah, tucked away in this narrow alley that felt new, like it hadn't been there before.
And the shop itself sounds incredibly atmospheric. Dusty, full of these strange porcelain dolls, clocks that apparently didn't tick. Real classic creepy shop vibe.
Definitely. And the shopkeeper?
Pale, according to the source. Smiling, but totally silent. Until the key moment, that is. He hands Karen this mirror, a full-length vintage one, using both hands, which feels kind of ritualistic, and then says the only words spoken, take it. It's free, but don't look into it in the dark.
Wow. Okay, so free, but with a catch. A pretty ominous catch. That's such a classic setup, isn't it? The forbidden fruit. Makes it almost impossible not to break the rule.
Almost guaranteed, yeah. And sure enough, Karen takes it home, hangs it up in his bedroom, and that very first night, he forgets to switch the light on before looking.
And that's where it really kicks off.
Right. He wakes up. The source gives his specific time, 3:07 a.m., which is always a bit chilling in itself.
Yeah, those dead of night hours.
But it wasn't a sound that woke him. It was a feeling, like something had shifted in the room. He looks at the mirror, and his reflection is described as still, okay, but also slightly wrong.
Slightly wrong. That's such an effective phrase. It's vague, but deeply unnerving. How was it wrong?
The source specifies. The reflection's head was tilted, but Karen's head wasn't. The eyes were open wider than they should be. That uncanny valley thing, right? Looks human, but something's fundamentally off.
Definitely triggers that primal discomfort.
And here's the real kicker. The reflection smiled, but Karen definitely wasn't smiling.
Oof, chills. So what does he do? He must freak out.
Well, he tries to rationalize it. Sleep-deprived, overworked, stress. The usual suspects. He turns on the light, and boom, the reflection lives normal again.
Okay, so temporary relief maybe, but the seed's planted.
Exactly, because the second night, it escalates.
Yeah.
Big time. He looks again, in the dark.
And it's not just tilted this time.
No. This time, the reflection turns away from him, and then walks out of the frame of the mirror, all while Karan is lying there, completely still.
Whoa. Okay, wait. So it's not just a distorted image anymore, it's acting independently.
Yeah, like an entity. It has agency now.
Yeah.
This moves it beyond just a creepy object into something actively malevolent, perhaps.
So the psychological pressure must be ramping up massively now. How does he react?
He tries to find a logical explanation, right? Checks behind the mirror, checks the walls, the ceiling, finds nothing, absolutely nothing.
Which probably makes it worse, the lack of a rational explanation.
Totally. And then the horror starts appealing to other senses. The source mentions a creeping coldness spreading through the room. And then whispers.
Whispers. Oh, man, what kind of whispers?
It's described as sounding like breath against breath. Very close, very intimate, very invasive.
And could he make out what they were saying?
Seems like it.
Yeah.
Just 2 words, over and over. Let me out.
Let me out. Okay, that is profoundly disturbing. It's not just visual anymore. It's auditory. It's almost tactile with the cold. It's getting inside his head.
Right. That sensory invasion is so effective because you can't just look away. It feels like it's right there with you. It erodes that sense of safety in your own space.
So his grip on reality must be slipping fast at this point.
Absolutely. Connects right back to that vulnerability we talked about. He stops sleeping properly. He tries covering the mirror, trying to block it out.
Does it work?
Nope. The nightmares continue.
Yeah.
And the forest makes a point of describing the other him inside the mirror during this phase It's getting closer to the surface, appearing more confident. Less like a reflection, the source says, and more like a
Copy.
a copy, like
Yeah.
it's solidifying its own identity while Curran's is fraying.
Yeah, it's building itself up as he breaks down.
Mm.
Which leads us to the climax. It's chillingly described.
That's the scene. One night, the mirror is uncovered again. Maybe he couldn't stand not looking, or maybe he was too far gone to care. Curran himself is described as just sitting on the bed, totally exhausted, hollowed out,
Right.
weakened.
Mm-hmm.
But inside the mirror, the other him is standing, alert, looking, well, alive. The contrast is stark. And then the other him steps forward.
Towards the surface of the mirror.
Through the surface.
Yeah.
Right through the glass.
No way.
Yeah. The source even mentions the sounds of chattering mirror, but also this weird static hiss. The barrier is just gone.
The copy is out. What happens then? What's the aftermath?
The source is pretty clear. There's now a man walking around who looks like Karin, talks like Karin, smiles like Karin.
What? There has to be a but.
But with those wrong details still there, the eyes are always just a bit too wide. The head has that slight, constant tilt. And apparently, this version never sleeps.
And the original Taran. The one who bought the mirror.
He's now the one inside the mirror.
Yeah.
Trapped. And the source leaves him there, just watching and waiting.
Wow. Okay. So we've gone from this dusty shop in a simple, ignored warning, all the way to this complete, terrifying identity swap.
It's incredibly effective, isn't it? Takes this everyday object, a mirror, something we use for self-reflection, literally, and just corrupts it entirely.
Yeah.
It charts that course of psychological breakdown, that slow creep of dread, ending in the ultimate fear, losing yourself, being replaced by something that's almost you, but wrong.
And for you listening, thinking about how stories like this work, how they get under your skin, notice how those really specific, almost mundane details amplify everything.
Study.
Like that exact time, 3:07 a.m., or the precise description of the wrongness, the tilted head, the wide eyes, even that simple, chilling phrase the whispers used, "Let me out."
They're not just generic scares. They're specific details that make Karn's experience feel grounded, somehow more real, which
Yeah.
paradoxically makes the horror feel more potent and personal for you.
Yeah.
It's a masterclass in less is more psychological horror, using detail to create dread.
Right. Specificity makes it relatable, even when it's supernatural.
And then we're left with that final image from the source, the original Quran, stuck inside the mirror, watching and waiting. What does that actually mean? Those specific words. Is he just a helpless observer, seeing his life stolen?
Or is there something more in watching and waiting? Is he looking for a flaw in the copy, waiting for, what, a chance to reverse it and escape? The source doesn't say.
Exactly. Just leave you with that deeply unsettling ambiguity about identity, reality, and what it means to be trapped watching your life from the other side of the glass. A really haunting final thought.